In this video, I'm going to show you how to open C6 Corvette headlights, but I'm actually going to let Garrett do it.
First, let's figure out what tools we need.
The C6 Corvette lights are sealed with PermaSeal. So these are going to be the tools that we're going to be using. First things first, you're going to want to have an oven. This is going to help soften up that PermaSeal, allowing you to remove the lens from the backing of the housing. If not, it is also doable to use a heat gun. It is much more affordable and it can be opened very similarly. Next up, I have a variety of tools that's going to assist in removing these clips right here. These little metal rings are what hold this rubber seal on, which you're gonna wanna remove before you put it in the oven to initially start to separate the back housing from the lens. So I use this to kind of get underneath it and pry it. Same with this one, and if it needs a little bit more strength, I can wiggle it out with this tool right here. When it comes to removing the actual lens, these are the tools I prefer. This flathead is going to be used to get in between the lens and the back housing to slowly separate the lens and the back housing, kind of pulling that PermaSeal apart. And you'll just slowly go all around until you get the entirety of the outside of the lens lifted up a little bit. Then you'll slowly be able to wiggle the back housing, which I will show you. If you need some extra assistance, this does kind of work in the same way of prying it. It just pulls it off more evenly. But if you don't have one of these, you can use a flathead or plier tools. This is optional, but we do put a foam mat underneath the headlight just to add further protection. We also get cling wrap and put it over the lens. That way, if you do put it upside down to work on stuff on the back, you're not worried about scratching the front of the lens. It just adds that much more protection. But since we're about to put it in the oven, we are just going to take it right off. Once you do heat it up and remove the lens, what you're going to also need is retro rubber. It is the best butyl out there for sealing up headlights and taillights, and a bunch of these clips. This is going to really help the lens onto the back housing, creating a really nice seal and a very nice fitment. There's going to be 3 9mm bolts on the back that is holding the inner housing onto the back housing. So you're going to want to remove that before you remove the lens. So I've just removed these retainer clips, and then the outside rubber seal can come off. Now it is time to put this bad boy in the... When baking any headlight or taillight, we usually keep it at 210. And depending on the size of the headlight or taillight, for example, this one, we're gonna do it for 8 minutes. Now this is an older oven. If yours is newer, it might run a little bit hotter. You might just have to experiment with it a little bit and see what temperature works best for you. So let me give you a quick demonstration on what it's gonna look like all the way around. So if you take the flathead and put it right here and give it a twist, you'll see it PermaSeal separate from the housing. And then from here, you're gonna wanna, every time you get to a clip, lift it up, but you'll see how it slowly separates as you go all around the housing. So once you've removed the lens, you're gonna wanna remove all of the PermaSeal in this trough. This is kind of like what it looks like. It's not sticky or anything, it's really rubbery, but you just gotta peel it all the way out from the outside so that you can put some butyl in for when you put the lens on the housing. Next, to access this back housing, you're going to want to remove these T10 Torx screws. So once you have those screws off, you can take the inner housing out and take the lens and then just... So we have a new clear lens right here, and essentially what we're going to do is the inverse of what we've already done. So put the inner housing in, kind of follow the steps backwards. So now that we have the inner housing screwed in, it is time for the butyl.
Got it!
So a trick I like to do to know that I'm getting the perfect amount of butyl is I take the headlight or tail light, measure off approximately half of it, and then I cut it there, and I double it by stretching it. That's gonna give you a little bit less thinner length, but it's gonna make it fit the outside a little bit better. Okay, now that we have the butyl in the crevice, you're going to want to set the lens in place. Don't push too hard. We still have to put it in the oven. That's going to soften all the butyl, allowing it to ooze in more. And then I will show you what to do after that. Make sure the cling wrap is not on the edges, because getting cling wrap off of butyl is not fun. Our butyl is in, lens is in place. Now it's time to put it back in the oven. Make sure to take the cling wrap off before you put it in. Don't forget, 210, 8 minutes for this set. While that's in there, we're gonna get our clamps ready. Now that you have them out of the oven, the butyl is going to be a lot more malleable, and you can actually start putting clamps on the outside, pulling the lens onto the back housing. We only like to use, a couple of clips. Okay, so the last step is to reattach the rubber seal. Okay, bye.